Most people won't get to the end of this. It's not the length that stops them. It's the resistance that kicks in halfway through. Somewhere deep inside, the mind starts pulling back. Like you're walking toward a door you've never opened, and something in you knows, once you step through, you can't go back. What you're about to hear won't try to inspire you. It will dismantle the way you think. The emotional shortcuts you've relied on for years will stop working. And the space they leave behind will feel strange, maybe even hostile. This isn't about becoming smarter. It's about stepping outside the frame that shaped every thought you've ever had. From there, you'll see how small that frame really was, and how much of it was built for someone else's benefit, not yours. There's a cost to that kind of clarity. Conversations begin to drag because you notice the hidden assumptions inside every sentence. You start catching the emotional hooks people use without even knowing it. And sometimes, you'll see exactly where things are heading, but still watch it unfold, powerless to change it without exposing how differently you think now. The method I'm about to give you isn't designed for comfort. It's not here to protect who you think you are, and it will probably ruin the parts of you that still want to be understood by everyone. This isn't self-improvement. It's the removal of everything you use to feel right, so you can finally see what's true. If that makes sense to you, my name is Dexter. I created this place for people who feel a lot, but don't talk too much. Subscribe, hit the bell, and now, let's talk. Do you believe it's possible to think without being influenced by a single emotion? Or does that sound completely wrong to you? Imagine waking up before the sun. No notifications, no voices, no headlines pulling you into someone else's urgency. The air is still. You can hear the weight of your own breathing. There's a coffee mug in your hand, but you're not really drinking from it. Your focus is on the silence, because it's rare. It's the kind that makes you aware of every small sound. The hum of the fridge, the faint creak in the floor under your chair. That stillness feels almost unnatural at first. Most of us are used to moving from one reaction to the next before our mind even knows what's happening. The day starts pulling at you. Emails, faces, obligations. And soon, you're not making choices. You're just catching up. You've been trained to live inside that loop, to answer questions before you even understand the full problem, to speak because silence feels like failure, to decide while your thoughts are still tangled with emotion. But in those rare pockets of quiet, the loop slows down. You start noticing how much of what you call thinking is actually remembering, repeating old responses that once worked well enough. Sometimes you hear an echo of a phrase someone else taught you. Sometimes you realize the argument in your head isn't even yours. It belongs to a moment that ended years ago. This is where the shift begins. Not in a breakthrough, but in a pause. Not in more effort, but in the absence of automatic effort. You're not trying to be calm. You're noticing that calm has been there all along. It was just buried under the noise you've been trained to treat as normal. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. There was a time when decisions weren't rushed, when words were weighed before they were spoken. Silence wasn't a void to be filled. It was part of the message. People moved slower, but not because they lacked urgency. They understood that a choice made in the wrong state of mind wasn't a choice at all. It was surrender. They could sit with discomfort long enough for clarity to surface. And when they acted, it was with the certainty that nothing important had been left unexamined. Today, speed has replaced precision. We answer before we understand. We react before we've even noticed what we're reacting to. A conversation becomes a volley of instant responses. each one designed to win the moment, not to solve the problem. The pace has trained us to confuse movement with progress, to believe that if we slow down, we'll fall behind. But behind what? Most of the race we think we're running is just a loop someone else built for us. In the older way, you'd let a thought breathe. You'd test it against reality before letting it shape your next move. Now, the thought barely forms before it's already out in the world, posted, sent, recorded, permanent, even if it was wrong. We've traded the discipline of choosing for the reflex of answering. And every reflex is a doorway emotions can walk through without knocking. The ancient mind wasn't immune to emotion. It simply knew when to let it speak and when to keep it silent. Our mind has forgotten that distinction. It treats every emotional impulse as a valid authority, and it does it in real time, without asking for permission. That's why the method we're about to step into feels so alien. It's a return to that older discipline, but stripped of nostalgia, stripped of comfort. It's not about living like they did before. It's about thinking with the same precision in a world that no longer rewards it. You're halfway through a meeting, and someone says something that doesn't sit right. Before you can even think, your mouth is already moving, shaping a defense you'll regret later. You're standing in line at a store, and the person ahead of you is slow to pay. Your jaw tightens, your breath changes. You don't choose to feel impatient, it just arrives, fully formed, before you even notice it. You get a text that makes your chest tighten. Without reading it twice, you start typing back, as if speed will give you back the control you just lost. Someone asks your opinion, and you hear yourself repeating an answer you've given before. Not because it still feels right, but because it's easier than finding a new one. You're in a conversation that turns tense, and instead of listening to what's actually being said, you're already rehearsing what you'll say next. By the time it's your turn to speak, you're not responding to the present moment at all. You're answering a version of it your emotions created 30 seconds ago. Every one of those moments has something in common. Your first thought is in control, not you, not logic, not the full picture. And it's not just the big decisions. It's the tone you use with someone you love when you're tired. It's the way your mind replays an insult you heard 2 days ago. It's most of what we call thinking is really just reacting, polishing old answers and calling them new. And because we mistake reaction for thought, we rarely question it. But if you could pause at the right moment, if you can see the reflex before it takes over, you'd realize how much power you've been giving away without knowing it. There's a moment, it doesn't come often, when you catch yourself in the act. You hear the thought forming, you feel the emotion rising, and for a split second, you realize, this isn't me thinking, it's a script. A reflex you've played so many times you've forgotten you didn't write it. It runs on its own, triggered by tone, by memory, by the shadows of things you've already survived. When you see it for what it is, there's a pull, one part fear, one part curiosity. Fear, because you understand how much of your life has been built on reactions you didn't choose. Curiosity, because you start to wonder what you might build if those reactions disappeared. But here's the fracture most people never cross. If you take away the emotional weight behind a thought, it changes shape. Sometimes it disappears completely. Sometimes it becomes sharper, colder, more precise than you expected. And once you've tasted that kind of clarity, the old way feels like walking through fog on purpose. It's not an easy shift. You won't feel lighter. You won't feel free in the way people sell freedom. You'll feel exposed, vulnerable, because without emotion clouding the edges, the truth stands in full daylight, and it doesn't care if you're ready to see it. You'll notice how much of your identity is just recycled emotion. Pride from victories that don't matter anymore. Fear inherited from people you've outgrown. Shame for things that no longer define you. This is the part where most minds retreat. They go back to the comfort of believing their reactions are proof they're alive. They convince themselves that clarity like this is dangerous, maybe even inhuman. And maybe it is. But the alternative is to keep living as a predictable sequence of triggers and responses, mistaking that for choice. You can stand on the edge of this and turn away. Or you can step forward, knowing you'll never think the same again. The hardest part isn't learning how to think differently. It's accepting that you've been thinking the same way for longer than you realized. Most of your days have been spent inside invisible walls. The layout feels familiar, so you call it normal. But if you look closely, every turn, every reaction, every opinion follows a path someone else laid out for you long ago. And yet, here you are, listening, not rushing to answer, not trying to fix the discomfort with a quick conclusion, just letting the silence do its work. That's where the shift starts, not in a sudden burst of insight, but in the decision to stop running every time the ground feels unfamiliar. You don't have to erase every emotion from your mind in a single day. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. The change begins quietly, in the small spaces between stimulus and response. In the pause where you ask yourself, do I actually believe this, or am I just repeating it? Clarity doesn't arrive like a victory. It's not a celebration. It's more like opening a window you didn't know was painted shut. At first, the air that comes in feels cold. Later, you realize it's just clean. The mind you've been using until now is built to protect you, to keep you predictable. The mind you're about to build won't protect your comfort. It will protect your sovereignty. And once you start, there's no undoing it. From here, you can return to the comfort of the loop. Let the reflexes take over. Convince yourself that reacting is the same as choosing, or you can start dismantling the patterns, one pause, one intercepted thought at a time. Not to become someone better, but to become someone you actually recognize when the noise is gone. Most people won't take that step. They'll stay where every answer feels safe and familiar. But a few will stand in that quiet space between emotion and decision and realize they're finally thinking for themselves. If that happens to you, don't expect applause. Clarity rarely gets celebrated. It gets noticed, silently, from a distance, by the ones who are searching for it too. My name is Dexter. I'll see you in the next one. And if the algorithm puts it in front of you, take it as a sign to keep going.